there was this point where I thought that I was not going to be just a musician. I was supposed to be a Marine. I wanted to be in the Navy. But plans changed as soon as I realized, man, if I go into Navy, I'm not going to be able to play, the amount of hours I really want to play and, put all the effort and live through music and live for music and, trying to make a living out of it. So, yeah, man, I think discipline is key. I mean, the best guitar players in the world and actually the best musicians in the world are pretty much like disciplined people, man.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com. I am joined today for an interview by guitarist extraordinaire and YouTuber Charlie Para Del Riego. Hopefully I said that right this time.
That was perfect. Actually, that was perfect, man.
What a hot mess. How are you today, my friend?
Pretty excited to be here talking to you, Keefy. Thanks for having me in this interview, man. It's a
I'm
good day.
pretty excited to talk to you. You have built, already for a relatively young guy, you have built a tremendous career just as a musician. I'm always interested in. I've interviewed Nick Nocturnal. I talked to people all over the web who've had a similar journey. First and foremost, you're a guitar player. I feel like that's the number one thing. Your calling card is your music. It's obviously why you got into all of this other stuff. I'm so excited for everything you have going on. Brand new album. Just so much to talk about. And then, of course, your YouTube channel, which is humongous. Ghost Cult has been we were a magazine, and now we've been a website for 11, 12 years. And subs are the constant struggle. Most of the time, it's hard to grow subscribers. So we'll talk about YouTube in a minute. But first things first, as a guitar player, what was the first song or guitar player you ever saw or heard that made you want to pick up the guitar and actually play?
Obviously, like most people of our generation, it was like Slash, Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads, right? But we're gonna talk that back in the day, like it was year 2000, so everything was around pop punk and new metal. So there wasn't exactly like guitar solos in that like music genre, right? So when I discovered the 80s, it was kind of crazy because I found the 80s and I thought this is like a new thing for me. It was the 80s is the new thing. So I started like exploring more about the guitar players from at that era. I started, to collect like leaks, collect like figures and trying to, being self-taught at that point.
That's amazing. I spy your red guitar in the corner there behind you. This is amazing. I figured your house was or your studio was going to be all surrounded by music stuff like my house is, except for the bed behind me. You see, but yeah,
Right.
like first of all, we started out as a magazine to cover underground metal and like very weird avant-garde death metal and other things. And I was always kind of like a progressive metal person and a thrash metal kid and a big nerd for other things. But I love new metal unashamedly, and I love a lot of pop punk. Probably our biggest interview or second biggest interview on the channel is Fat Mike from NoFX, who I'm a big fan of. So there's a lot of great, like you got, there are some great guitar players in those genres. And I think punk, because of it, always had kind of like a DIY thing. And the idea that punk guitar players don't care about their guitar playing, which is not true. You talk to most punks, they do care. Like the maybe their vibe is kind of shitty, but they don't want to be shitty musicians ultimately.
Right.
And then as I have a couple of podcasts, this interview series, as well as another podcast where we talk about vinyl. And my partner on that podcast likes to say, metal is when hardcore and punk players become good guitar players. They make metal because they get better and better and better, and metal is the logical conclusion. But yeah, man, I definitely feel you on the 80s stuff. I'm a child of the 80s in a lot of ways, and I love the 80s guitar players. And what I really love about your guitar playing is that, like, okay, a lot of guys can shred, but you really care about the whole song, and you really care about rhythm as much as you do lead. I think it shows. And I love that what a lot of people don't do is phrasing. I think like you can shred notes all day long, but to like, how do you end how do you end a solo? How do you play a cover and cover the guitar, the vocal parts or the lead parts with the guitar and make it sound like a singer? That's important, I think.
Right, right. I totally agree. I mean, now it's pretty interesting that you mentioned like Fat Mike because he has this big rule that everybody has to stay in tune, at least like being in tune, right? Thing is that there are two things about punk rock and metal like mixed. for people that grew up in the 90s and 2000s. For example, that I was really hooked by this documentary film, The Decline of the Western Civilization, Part 2, The Metal Years, right? But at the same time, I watched the first one, which was Part 1, which was more like involved with punk rock, right? So there's this thing that really called my attention at the time was that the punk rock people were not pretty much interested in being signed, which metal guys, at least the hair metal guys, were like looking to be signed. But the other guys were doing their own stuff and trying to live that do-it-yourself lifestyle, which, for a reality like mine, my country is Peru in South America, right? So it was pretty difficult to get signed from here by a major label, right? The fact that the YouTube channel exploded at the time really like gave me the chance to hook up with pretty cool bands and pretty cool musicians.
Right. It seems like a lot of people are taking notice of you. We'll talk about that in a second, which is great. And shout out and hello to Peru and any fans we have there, as well as your fans. Come aboard. We're like, we'll take you all the time in any condition. We never say no because we're trying to keep this thing going. But, I think it is important. I think also the punk guys all started their own labels while the first couple of metal bands got signed. It's just the same thing that always happens, right? A couple of bands start happening, and then the record labels pay attention. Like, oh, we should sign up all the other bands that sound like them in their area. It happened with grunge. It happened with thrash after Metallica got, just happened to be wearing my Metallica shirt today, but I picked it up, off the pile of clean black shirts and just put the next one on. That's what I do. The hats change all the time though, but the shirts are usually the same 20 shirts. But I think the punk guys all started their own record labels because they were less concerned. They were worried about getting screwed, and they wanted to make, it was like a factor there with the DIY. But also, like, yeah, man, some of the best music ever made is the glam rock and hair metal. I'm a huge, I love all those bands. I always thought Motley Crue was not as great. Like, their songs are great, but they're not great as players. Sorry, not sorry. Mick is a great guitar player, and Tommy's a great drummer, but I was like, there are better bands. I always thought Rat was a better band than Motley Crue. Poison to an extent is a better band than Motley Crue, certainly a better singer. But yeah, I definitely hear like again, it's much more than just playing. I can shred notes. I can play fast. I think there's a real did you learn any other styles of playing beside rock and metal? Because it sounds like you can incorporate a lot of different stuff into your playing.
Thing is that a lot of the bands that I've been listening for years have been really mixed because it's what you listen in the radio here in South America is totally different from what you listen to the radio in the States, right? So there's a lot like an influence from South American music, like pop music, like South American pop music. And I think that all the guitar players here in this side of the world had their own like kind of a different spice because of that, right? It's not that it's no different that the one that you just mentioned, Rat, that it's a better band for you, like a better band than Motley Crue. And well, they have like this like different guitar players, Warren DeMartini and Robin Crosby. At least the ones that are in the classic recordings that everybody has in their Spotify playlists, and you can listen to those contrasts. That Warren DeMartini was even a little bit jazzy for moments, while Robin Crosby was a little more like Billy Gibbons kind of sounding vibe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always, Warren is an incredible player. I would say about Robin, and rest in peace to Robin, who died a long time ago. His rhythm guitar parts were constantly changing. He never played the same. Like when the chorus came, he wouldn't just play the riff. He would play a variation on the verse riff. So like I love how musical he was. Maybe he wasn't the most technically gifted guitar player, kind of like a Steve Clark of Def Leppard also. Like his rhythm parts during solos were its own whole song, and I feel like that carried on to put bands like Megadeth and Anthrax, who also like, oh, the solo is this part, different riff, different riff, different riff, So I love guitar playing in all its, I was always a not great guitar player. I sang and played bass in bands, and I was just not I could write a song, but I would never consider myself a great guitarist. But what kind of work did you put in when you were younger to learn the instrument? Like what was that like for you to kind of, how fast did you pick it up? Did you practice like 10, 24 hours a day? How did you sleep with your guitar? How did you do it?
Yeah, now that you mentioned that sleeping with my guitar, it's kind of like that because when you're a little kid and you want to learn how to play and you want to play fast and you want to play tight, you put all the effort, man. Because if you want to play guitar, you of course you got to be like disciplined to some point, right? It's like I talked to this like with one of my friends in EMG pickups. It's like kids start playing guitar and play like 6 hours a day, right? And they start meeting like girls and partying, so that lowers to 2 hours. But thing is that it was like that, and I was playing in bands here, lots of bands. I was playing in bars. I was doing like a pretty touring like locally, right? And thing is that of course I had like a routine and everything, but I there was this point where I thought that I was not going to be just a musician. I was supposed to be a marine. I wanted to be in the Navy, but plans changed as soon as I realized, man, if I go into Navy, I'm not going to be able to play, the amount of hours I really want to play, and, put all the effort and live through music and live for music, and, trying to make a living out of it. So yeah, man, I think discipline is key. I mean, the best guitar players in the world, and actually the best musicians in the world, are pretty much like disciplined people, man.
You have to be. Yeah, you need a certain amount of
Yeah.
discipline. And I imagine time management because, of course, now you have this hugely successful YouTube. And so, obviously, today you're home and we're doing this interview. You're not traveling. You're not, maybe you'll make content later or you already did today. But in terms of like, what does your day look like if you had to look at if you made a calendar? Here's my day, Charlie's day today. Do you practice a few hours? Do you make content for a few hours? Do you have time for yourself later, hopefully, to eat and rest and hang out? What do you do in a day?
You basically you just said it all, because that's pretty much what I had to do. For example, I play in two bands right now. Like I play in a band from Spain, a power metal band called Saratoga, which is a pretty successful band in like Spanish speaking countries. But we're touring in the States in June, which is gonna be really fun. And I also play with Chris Jericho. Quarantine, that's the name of the band. And I have to like pretty much split my head in two, because Quarantine is pretty much like a hard rock party band. It's like it's Chris Jericho. It's like a party band, right? It's 80s party, right? And the other band is like power metal. There's this point where I pretty much even the stage clothes change a lot. So whenever a tour is coming, I have to practice that, because I do believe that it doesn't matter if you play guitar for 10 hours and then you don't play for a week, right? Like you gotta play at least like some hours a day to, stay like in guitar shape. That's pretty much like how I've been doing lately, and doing content and everything. Well, because it's 2024, it's pretty much, I believe that content era, it's pretty much getting longer than what I thought. It's getting way longer, and there's more social networks and stuff. So yeah.
Right. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because I work in marketing and social media when I'm not doing
Hmm.
music journalism. So I'm very focused on social media. I think that's part of our success is that we were good at social media before anybody else was paying attention to it. Do you feel like it's, so making just like being a guitar player in a band used to be enough. Well, I'm a great guitar player and I write songs and I solo and that's it. I show up with my guitar, I set my gear up and I play. Now, even that is not enough responsibility in any band trying to make it anywhere, let alone successful bands. But also as a content creator and a YouTuber with 850,000 plus subscribers, going to get 1 million soon, I'm sure. There's like a demand, right? There's a grind you have to do every day, right, to keep up. How do you manage all of that, social media and content creation?
Pretty much because when I look back in the day, the first I usually played in bands like here, right? Like kind of popular bands, like really popular bands here, like locally in my country, in my area, right? But it was because of internet content that I got noticed by other countries and other bands, and got the chance to tour like overseas, which was not a possibility if I did not make any of that content. I could be like a, I don't know, like a decent guitar player and do the part, do the thing, do the job. But if you don't get noticed, like who's gonna call you, right? It's not that, I know so many people that think that somebody's gonna walk into a bar, and that person that was walking into the bar had, it's, I don't know, like Bill Gassari, I don't know, but they get into the bar and they say, look, this guy is great, I should take him on tour. And I pretty much believe that doesn't happen anymore. Even though, like, a really cool thing happened to me in year 2010, that one of the guys in Gibson Guitars actually was in the festival that I was playing at. and that actually made the connection with them. And it's 2024, and I'm still working with them, which is cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're describing an experience that happened a lot like 40 and 30 and 20 years ago and doesn't happen so much anymore. Out of curiosity, what do you know, having made it really successfully on YouTube, which again is difficult. I know there's a million YouTubers and there's a thousands of YouTube musicians and there's thousands of YouTube metal musicians, but it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to keep up. You've had some wildly successful videos. How do you feel about other social networks like TikTok and X and things like that? Do you concentrate on them or less so?
I definitely do not concentrate on X, because X is pretty much like, it's fucking horrible. That's the truth. It's fucking horrible. And but talking about TikTok, I think it's crazy how this social network is right now pretty much the most important one. Like recently, I was in this like I work with here in my country, work locally with Converse, with the Chuck Taylors, the brand, right? And we were at this like showcase. I was going to play guitar in that showcase, right? And that was like probably like 6 months ago. And one of the girls that was the promoter of this event told the guy from Converse South America, he told, hey, let me introduce you to Charlie Parra, the TikToker. And it was like, all right, so I've played guitar 20 years. I've been touring so many countries, and I've been doing so much stuff to be now like Charlie Power, the TikToker. I think that's fine. It's year 2024. That's supposed to be a good thing. So the only thing that I think it's crazy is how burned out like musicians end up with this, because people want numbers, people want, it's like it's pretty frustrating. For example, like my YouTube channel, like people prefer to watch the old stuff, right? And to get the new stuff there and push it to your audience, it's really, really hard. But still, you gotta keep doing it. Like they say in America, we gotta keep hustling. That's a word, right?
It is, do you have to do all the things and cover all the bases, but it's difficult, and you need to take some time off yourself. It's very easy to get burned out, and there's also a lot of negativity. I feel like your channel's commenters are overwhelmingly supportive, but do you ever get any negative comments, and how do you handle any negativity that comes your way?
Oh man, it's all the fucking time people hate on me, like big time. But it's something that with time you learn to that it's a part of it's part of what you're doing, right? It's like not every time is going to be good things, and it's like I see this like common mistake that people do when they get like some attention on their channels or on their Instagrams or whatever. They focus on the bad things. It's like there's like 10 people telling you that you're doing a good job. And suddenly somebody tells you, hey, this fucking sucks. And people start focusing on that guy, right? And it shouldn't be that shouldn't be the case. People can be really, really fucking mean. They can be really mean, really, I would say even evil. I mean, people actually like, I believe like some people would like want to see me like, fail like big time, right? But in the end, you gotta focus that it doesn't matter. I mean, whoever said that, it's not like, for example, if someone like Jared James Nichols or Michelangelo Baccio told me, dude, you fucking suck, I would get so depressed, so depressed. Or if some big fan tells me, some a fan that I care about, right, tells me, dude, this is really, really bad. I think that would hurt a lot. That would hurt big time. If that comes from someone that you don't know who this person is, you gotta say, man, this person just gave you his time, her time, just to tell you something really fucking bad. So now I see it that way. And it's like there are weeks that I get a lot of like hate messages in a weekly basis, right? If they're like less than 10 of those, I start to worry. I start like, all right, this is weird. This is not good. Not a good sign.
Right on.
But I
The
guess,
negative comments do help with the algorithm. I never wanted to be on videos. Like I was a band guy.
uh-huh.
I was younger. I had long hair, no beard, thinner a little. Now I'm old and chubby, and I got no hair, just hair here where I had hair over here. But like necessity, I got on video. I do a lot of interviews. It's one of my calling cards, and I was like, okay, we'll start doing videos. Yeah, we also get a ton of hate messages, and sometimes they hurt. I'm sorry that anybody. First of all, I can't believe anyone would even hate you. You're so great, and your personality is so uplifting and fun. Like like today, I listen to all your music, and I have checked out some of the older videos, but the three newer videos that I loved, obviously the Jericho stuff, especially the Kiss cover. I love seeing that. Right, big Kiss fan, and Jericho's great. We've interviewed Jericho, and you mentioned Jared James Nichols. We interviewed him too. His new album's great, and I love the video. You did WrestleMania. You went to Philadelphia to the football stadium and saw the WrestleMania. It was amazing, and I just like I don't speak Spanish, but I watched the whole video, and I love your enthusiasm. I watched it with subtitles, and I hope they're accurate. My Spanish is not good, but from high school, like a long time ago. High school and college Spanish, not very good in America. But I love your positivity. Like overwhelmingly, even when maybe you're not having the best time, it doesn't show. And while I don't think it's fake, I think you're very authentic in who you are. And I love just like even when you interact with other creators, you're always smiling and you're always positive and you're always trying to amplify everybody else and show the good times. And then also I love just love that about your personality. It just really comes through in these videos. How could anyone hate you? What's wrong with them?
I mean, it's like you can't be in good terms with everybody, right? And like it's like recently, like here in my personal life in my country, I kind of quit my band from all my life, right? So there's been like some rifts here and there, but that's the thing. You can't be in good terms with everyone. But in the end, like for example, that video, that WrestleMania video, is like, dude, it's like that's me being not the guitar player. That's me being, having a good time. And I kind of want to share that with the people that follows my stuff. Because in the end, like just like these guys like the stuff that I'm recording and sharing with them. And I also like this stuff. It's like it's the part where I become a fan, right? Like so enthusiastic about it, something, right? And regarding, I truly appreciate that you think I'm a genuine person, because that's pretty much basically what you just said. But yeah, man, it's like I couldn't be any more grateful for everything. It's like if I see myself like 20 years ago, I would have never thought that. I'm talking to you. I'm speaking in English, which is crazy. And here's a fact that when I'm in the States, when I've been touring there, like with Kuarantine, I used to play in this Canadian band called Leonardos. They're like a power metal band. I one of the worst experiences of my life, but I learned a lot. And thing is that when I speak in English back then, and even now, people think, "Hey, dude, are you from San Diego?" And I'm like, I try to correct them. Like I try to, no, I'm way more South America, Peru, right? But now when somebody comes and tells me, "Hey, dude, you're from San Diego," I'm like, "Fuck yeah, man, born and raised in Sandy." I just, I don't want to argue with them anymore. I don't want to break their illusion that they're talking to a San Diego, born and raised.
Nice. Right coast, wrong continent. Way
Right.
way further south. And just for a second, yeah, I appreciate all that. I know Diphonia was your band. You're not in that band anymore. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I'm not in that band anymore.
That's fine. That's fine. It's good. We all move on, and things last for a time, and then they don't. I had a band. Now I do this. This is my band now. This website, this YouTube. This is what I do instead of making music. But yeah, I did want to ask about. I think obviously like a lot of people know you for the punk versus metal videos. They were humongous, shared all over. People used to send them to me all the time. It's how I discovered you in the first place. Your more recent videos, you're doing a lot of collabs and covers, of course. And I love the track with Dino from Fear Factory. What a great song! How did you meet Dino, and how did that come about?
I met Dino back in 2013 when I was in tour with Cobra and the Lotus, which was like the craziest touring bill ever. It was the Industrialist tour, Fear Factory, Dino and Burton, and we were touring with Hate Eternal with Eric Rutan and Cobra and the Lotus. It was a really weird bill. But the thing is that I became really good friends with Dino. First, because I love Fear Factory, and the other thing is that I used to play in this band called Serial Asesino, which actually they had a little bit of spice from Fear Factory, right? Thing is that I became friends with Dino. We both have like Latino heritage, right? So we could like speak Spanish here and there. And at some point, we were talking and saying, actually, this was kind of his idea. Once he told me, like a long time ago, like more than 10 years ago, he actually told me, what do you think if I make some like riffs, like rhythm guitar parts, and you kind of play like leads and melodies or shred on him? And I always told him one of my favorite Fear Factory songs ever is Descent. And I love also Self-Bias Resistor. And one day he actually wrote me and told me, hey, I have this. Because I made this video with celebrating that I got to 800,000 subscribers on YouTube. And on that video was like Gus G, Jared James Nichols, other YouTube content creators like Bradley Hall, Jared Dines, Cole Rowland, and Dino was there. And Dino told me, like, what if I extend that riff part that I made, and we make a song? And I told him, man, I'm gonna let's do it. And that's how it came out. And he was really happy about it. And also I was. I think that Dino is one of those like crazy characters in life, that I met for a reason. Because when I uploaded this picture of me and Dino back in 2013, I think that was in Kentucky or something. That was like 11 years ago. And then I share a picture of me and Dino in year 2000, year 2023, actually. And people are saying like, dude, you guys look way better now. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So, yeah, man, I really consider Dino a really good friend. Not just a friend, but, a guitar, like, he's like a guitar hero for he's like fundamental for modern metal. I think it's pretty like people do not look back at what Dina did back in the day. And I mean, if it wasn't for him and his right hand, a lot of the stuff that we're listening right now wouldn't even exist. Or maybe it would exist, but in probably E standard,
For sure. They
right?
were they were really the first successful band to tune way down. Before your new metal and before technical death metal and Meshuggah, Fear Factory. Go look up even before before Replica, before Demanufacture, earlier. I love Dino. Dino, fun fact: Dino is the artist we've interviewed the most times, except for one other person, and that's Max Cavalera. So we are, we love Dino here, as well as others. Just really quick, let's talk about your new album. You just put a new album out, and again, you're very prolific with putting out singles, EPs, and albums. It's full. Talk about this new album for a second, because it kind of blew me away how cool it is.
I mean, right now it's pretty much like a collection of singles right now. But the full thing, it's coming out like probably in a couple weeks or 3 weeks, because I'm not pretty sure about the artwork, to be honest. But it's pretty cool that I've got to make this collaborations with Dino on the drums. Is like a Brazilian drummer, Eduardo Baldo. He plays in Red Devil Vortex. They're right now on tour with Doyle. And I also made this collab with Gus G, which is a good friend of mine, and Michelangelo Baccio. It's in one of the tracks. The track's called Pulsar. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I would have never imagined that I could be able to have this kind of guests to make music, right? So these are going to be available everywhere like in 3 weeks or so, maybe less. And yeah, man, it's crazy how things work out, man. I mean, I tell you, I'm pretty honored to be like doing this stuff. Also, like a couple of weeks ago, with Quarantine, with Chris Jericho's Quarantine, we just released Good Girl Going Bad. And I know the track's doing good in radio, which is crazy that it's doing good on the radio. So it's great. It's a great experience. Besides, the band has members of course, there's Chris and PJ Farley from Trickster, Joe McGinnis, who's a great guitar player and great country artist. And look, actually, Kent Slusher, who's a drummer, he's the drummer for country artist Luke Bryan. So it's quite an interesting mixture of characters there, man.
Jericho always has the top tier dudes playing with him. You're one of them, so it speaks a lot to your ability also. And he would know. He's been doing as long as he was in wrestling and still is. He also, he's been in music a very long time at this point, like 25 years plus. So he definitely knows a thing or two about talent and how to put it together to put together a band. Just as we wrap this up really quick, a couple of more questions for you. You said you're coming to the States this summer with both bands. I'm very excited for this. Hopefully you'll get to come out west and we'll see you here. I'd love to meet you in person. What do you look forward to about touring? And what do you need to take with you for a tour? so you're comfortable on tour? Because obviously, life at home in Peru a lot different than the USA or Europe.
Yeah, it's something that when I play here and I don't have to tour overseas or get into a lot of planes to get to the place I'm gonna tour. Right now, I'm 100% digital, and I'm really sad to say this, but I'm done with the analog stuff. But it's because it's really heavy. It's really like now traveling. It's getting like it's more difficult every time. It's not just the paperwork. It's not just the bureaucratic stuff. It's that everything's getting like more expensive. It's getting less, getting way more difficult for musicians nowadays. But the good thing is that now we have like alternatives like going digital, right? The first person I ever saw going digital ever was Dino in this tour. I was playing guitar in this like covering the Lotus, and we were playing like Black Stars, full stocks, right? And it was horrible. Our trailer was packed with the amps and the stocks and everything, the caps. And one day, Dino tells me, "Hey, man, why don't you just go digital? I've seen that you have like a Pod XT Live or something. You should plug that straight to the PA and just do it." And I'm like, "Are you sure it's going to sound good? You should do it." And he showed me like his Kemper, right? And I said, "All right, I'm going to try to do that." And I started to use sort of like digital stuff. And he said, "Dino, you were so right. This is great." And the other fucker of the band was carrying caps and hats and everything. And I would tell him, "Dude, you should go digital." "No, dude, analog's the way," and everything. The fucker ended up the tour, with a really heavy backache. And I was just hanging out with Dino, having jalapeno burgers. And it was a great closer for that tour. But yeah, I owe that to Dino too, going digital.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going that way anyway, like amp modeling and things like that, especially for live. It's just easier. Touring is hard in the best possible way. If at the highest levels, touring's got to be hard, I think, physically and emotionally. So if you could do anything to make it efficient, less difficult, easier for you to carry your own gear, do that. Do the easiest thing sometimes. At the same time, of course, I love to end these interviews with a wild card question, and I pick one out especially for every different artist. So I have to ask you, and this might be a hard one. If you had to pick one guitar solo from another artist that is your favorite guitar solo of all time, which one is it?
That's a super, super hard question, man. Because I would say like I gotta talk for a solo of this season, right? And in at this part of my life, I would have to say that I just gotta say one. I can make it like a top three,
You
just
can make a
one.
top three, whatever you want.
All right. I gotta say that I love I'm a huge fan of Ace Frehley's lead in Love Gun. Back in the day, the first time I saw that, I was like, "Oh my god, that's impossible," right? And you know the feeling. And I really like that one. From something more like 80s style. Oh man, I love Lay It Down by Warren Martini. So good. So groovy. And I would say Humans Being by Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen playing, that lead, because it's like this guitar solo that lasts for like the album version. Lasts like, I don't know, like 5 minutes. And he's just going and keeps going. And that's the thing that I love about that track in particular, because I'm a huge like David Lee Roth Van Halen era. That's my era, right? But that guitar solo is really good. So melodic, and at the same time, it's Eddie, adult Eddie, right? So yeah, I would pick those three. I'd love to add some Slash, and I think my favorite guitar solo of all time is Mr. Crowley, Randy Rhoads version. Let's put them all like behind. But yeah, I would pick that one. Mr. Crowley, Love Gun, and whatever Eddie played in the six strings. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
nice, man. Eddie is the greatest. I miss him so much. And there's a new Twister movie coming out. And if it doesn't have humans being on the soundtrack, we're going to fight, movie studio. We're
Oh,
going to fight. But yeah, man, Charlie, man, so great to meet you and so great to hear your story and share it with our audience. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Congratulations on your new albums, on YouTube, on touring. I'm so pumped for everything you have going on. I hope to meet you in person and we'll talk about more guitar stuff and nerd out a lot more.
definitely, Keefy. You're a super cool guy, man. And I love that you're Keefy. I love like I hope I'm pronouncing that the right way. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
man. Well,
I still got the nickname I had when I was little. That's my childhood nickname, and I just went with it. I was like, I'm gonna be like Keefy Ramone and Joey Ramone. It's gonna be just Keefy Ghost Cult or Ghost Cult
it,
Keefy. So thank you so much, man. You're the best, and we'll do it again sometime. Thanks for hanging with Ghost Cult.
absolutely, Kiffy. Take care, man. Thanks for having me.